every time. So, guys, listen. Manchester United obviously winning yesterday 2-0. And you know what? It's one of them things for me, you know. As you guys can see, different surrounding today. You know, not usually in my usual surroundings, but it is what it is. But, guys, as I said, for me, you know, good getting the 3 points yesterday for Man United, but I think I wanna see, you know, what happens with this manager now, because international break coming up, as you guys know already. You know, after that international break, you know, we have the small matter of Liverpool away at Anfield. You know, Liverpool obviously in poor form at the moment. Lost their last 3 games, 2 in the Premier League, and then one obviously in the Champions League. You know, watched that game yesterday, and to be honest with you, you know, it's one of them things where Liverpool at home against rivals United, you'd fancy them to bounce back. So will Ruben Amorim be in charge for that? This is the question. Big up to Barbara Joseph each and every time for coming through. So yeah, listen, will Amorim be in charge? And I think this international break is going to tell me a lot, because I don't want people thinking because United got a good result against Sunderland, you know, newly promoted Sunderland, that we should be reading into anything but this manager being moved on, in my opinion. I do think as well, you know, there is still a cause for concern with this team. You know, big up to Daniela as well for coming on. Big up, guys. Big up. So I do think there is cause for concern with this team. And as I said, you know, the title says Kobbie Mainoo wants out of Manchester United. Do I believe Kobbie is going to leave United? I don't. And as I keep saying, for me, it's more of a case that, you know, Kobbie is trying to force Ineos's hand to make a decision on the manager. You know, and obviously there was talk about Kobbie leaving, you know, at the start of the transfer window. You know, United, obviously, he stayed at United, but I think it's quite clear and it's quite obvious to me that this manager just doesn't like technical players. You know, it's very obvious with a certain few other players that are not getting game time. And then you look at, you know, the fact that Kobbie is getting, you know, as people would say, microwave minutes, you know, the last 10 minutes of a game, which isn't good enough for someone of Kobbie's level. Big up to Agnes and big up to Lumi Rain each and every time. I know Lumi's excited, you know, Arsenal top of the league. You know, I know she's going to come on here again and start telling us, you know, Arsenal going to win the league, etc. But listen, there's a long way to go. 7 games in. Arsenal are top. But listen, let's just remain optimistic that that's not going to be the case. Guys, come on. There's 13 of you watching, 4 likes. Make sure you smash the like button and make sure you sub to the channel. Already, you know, we've got Mason Mount. What a performance. Yeah, listen. The very fact that Mason Mount is getting game time, which we're going to touch on in a minute, is part of the problem. So, guys, keep your questions and comments coming in. As I said, I'm going to do a little poll now for you guys actually as well. So, we're going to ask, so does Kobbie Mainoo, leave Manchester United, Man United? So, guys, little poll for you guys. Let's see where everyone's at. So, does Kobbie Mainoo leave Manchester United? Because I think all the noise that we're hearing is Kobbie wants out. Me personally, I'm still remaining confident that Kobbie's not going to go anywhere. I just don't see it. But yeah, let me know what you think. But I think there's no surprising that Kobbie's unhappy. And as I've mentioned before, this is a player that has gone from, you know, possibly being one of England's biggest or next biggest talents. And now Kobbie Mainoo at Manchester United is definitely stagnated, you know, through no fault of his own. And I think it's one of them things with Kobbie that we're now looking at Kobbie really as, you know, as someone that, he can't get back in the England team. He can't even get in the United team. And again, this is why for me a change does need to be made, because I'm of the opinion that you change the manager, Kobbie gets back into this team straight away. So as I said, yeah, it's one of them things where it's frustrating to see, you know, because I'm bored of this manager. I know probably a few of you are as well, but I think unfortunately, man, we're gonna have to just sit tight and let's move that there 1 minute. We're gonna have to just sit tight and see what happens with this manager. But you know, international break is coming, is up now for United, and again, the game back against Liverpool is going to be a game. But will Ruben Amorim be in charge? That's what I want to know. You know, because there's definitely been talks with other managers. You know, and it's more than, you know, there's more than enough proof there to see that this can't continue any longer. And again, I don't want to see people start saying, you know, Amorim deserves more time, because this is the same mistake that we've made in the past. So again, yeah, I don't want to see fans coming out saying that Amorim deserves to keep his job because of a win against newly promoted Sunderland. Because again, if you look at Amorim's record so far at Man United in the Premier League, the majority of his wins have come against newly promoted teams. You know, so where do we go from here, man? I don't know. But it's quite obvious, as I said, that Kobbie does want out. You know, I did say when there was talk about Kobbie going out, you know, before the end of the transfer window, I said it's more of a ploy from him and his team to really force Ineos's hand, in my opinion. Because I just can't believe an academy product like Kobbie will be allowed to be moved on. I don't believe it. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And as usual, Kevin McGee's back in with his chat. Kevin says, Kobbie is bang average, lads. Come on, let's higher our standards. And you know what, Kevin, man, to agree with what you're saying, you know, it is about keeping the standards high, which is why, you know, just in line with keeping the standards high, this is why Bruno Fernandes, we need to move him on as soon as possible, you know. So I want to see Bruno, you know, January transfer window comes, along with the manager already being out. Those are two players there, two people there that need to be gone. And Bruno Fernandes is a massive reason, you know, why this club is being held back. So, as I keep saying, the quicker you move out Bruno, quicker you move out Amorim, you know, you're going to get a better camaraderie for me amongst the team, and you're going to get better from the club as a whole, man. So, let's hope that, you know, that Ineos are looking at the bigger picture in terms of Bruno and in terms of the manager, you know. So so Lumi says, Gav, if Mount watched your lives, if Mount watched your lives, what would you say to him? What would I say to Mason Mount if he watched my lives? I would say, Mason, listen, you've been injured half the time you've been here. You're on 250 grand a week, nicking the living. You cost 55 million. I expect better performances from you. You know, one goal doesn't change my mind from Mason Mount. As I said, I'm going to keep the same energy throughout. Do I believe Mason Mount is absolutely useless? I don't. I think Mason Mount, there is times Mason Mount does offer stuff, but it's few and far between. I mean, if you look at the game yesterday, yes, he got the goal, but then he went vanishing after that. So, again, I'm not going to start coming on there and start telling you guys because Mason Mount, you know, got a goal, all of a sudden he should be in the team now or be staying. And again, we're going to get into the team selection in a minute because, as I knew anyway, you know, with this manager, there's going to be problems ahead because the fact that Mason Mount, you know, has come from nowhere now and he's got a goal, people are getting a bit excited now over Mason Mount. That shouldn't change anything for me. He's still a guy that needs to be removed end of the season, 100%, you know, because I don't rate Mason Mount highly. And because he got a goal yesterday, that's not going to change my mind. So it is what it is. Gav, how long do you think Amorim will last at Man U? How long do I think Amorim lasts? I mean, to be honest with you, he should have been sacked when they got beat by Tottenham in the Europa League last season. Like, the fact that he's still here is concerning. But how long do I think he lasts? Personally, I think I'm gonna have to believe and say the international break, because there's no better time to sack him now. You know, he's won his last game. Let him go out on a high, and then just remove him and get someone else that can take this team forward. Because, you know, if you look at after the international break, United have got Liverpool, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, and Tottenham. I think realistically, how many points are we expecting from those games with Ruben Amorim in charge? You know, because I'm sick and tired of doing the whole, you know, he needs to get this amount of points, etc. You know, I set a target of the first 5 games for Amorim. He needed to get 8 points. He failed that. Then when he was still in charge, I said Sunderland and Brentford, he needs 6 points. Yeah, he got 3. So he's failed the 2 obstacles that I set out personally, that he needed to achieve. So again, I'm not going to be in the business of doing this whole Amorim needs to get this amount of points, etc. You know, the international breaks up, you know, is here now. There's managers that are willing to take this job. You know, Xavi's on a free. You know, Glasner, obviously, he's not signing a new contract. Iraiola's got a minimum fee release as well. So there's managers that can take over at Manchester United. It's just whether Ineos want to be tight and save money and wait till November, or are they going to pull the plug right now and take this club back to the top? Because I can tell you this now, it's not under this manager. So how long do I think he lasts? I'm going to say international break. I'm hoping they make a change. But then these next run of fixtures, the next 4 fixtures, is not going to be easy. So yeah, it's hard to say really, but I just think international break is a perfect time. So let's see what happens there. Kevin says, move Bruno to the 10 and Kobbie in the 8. Then in the summer, buy a real central midfielder. But again, Kevin, the fact that we're trying to do this whole Bruno in the 10 when he's not a 10 in the first place is part of the problem. Because, as I said, in this system, Bruno can't play the 10, you know, because as I mentioned plenty of times, this number 10 position requires mobility. It requires you to be good in isolation in terms of isolating the right back. And it requires, you know, a player to be good in tight spaces. And it requires a player to be good in a half turn. All the things. And again, it requires you to have the ability to take on your man. And all these things here, Bruno doesn't have. So the fact that this Ruben Amorim is shoehorning Bruno into the 8 and into the 10 is part of the problem. You know, Kobbie Mainoo should be playing, but again, Kobbie's strengths are not in this system either. You know, you play a 4-2-3-1 or you play a 4-3-3, you're definitely going to get a better Kobbie Mainoo. So, yeah, to say to move Bruno in the 10 and Kobbie in the 8, again, we're just putting square pegs in round holes. You know what I mean? Another central midfielder is definitely needed. Another 2 for me. Carlos Baleba, Eduardo Camavinga, left-footed central midfielders. I'd love Adam Wharton as well. You know, there's talk about Elliot Anderson. But Man United definitely do need new central midfielders. But the issue is, as I said, is not to move Bruno to the 10. You know, and we're going to get onto the team selection in a bit. But again, when you're saying move Bruno into the 10, this is why moving forwards it's an issue. Because we shouldn't be shoehorning a player into the team that shouldn't even be here. So, again, do I think Kobbie leaves Manchester United? I don't. I'm still going to stick by the fact that it's more of a case where he wants to see how much the club rate him. Because whether people like it or not, yeah, it's going to come down to either Kobbie Mainoo or Ruben Amorim. It's as simple as that. I know people don't want to hear that, but the facts are, you're either going to have to pick between Kobbie Mainoo and Ruben Amorim, because Amorim's not going to change his mind on Kobbie. Kobbie's not going to get the game time that he needs for his development. So it's either fans want Kobbie to be moved on, or they want Amorim to be moved on. And I know where I stand. You know, the manager, Ruben Amorim, has to be moved on. And I think there's no better time to do it in this international break for me. Big up to Jaden. Big up for coming through. Gav, who do you think is the best player in the Premier League right now? Best player in the Premier League right now? I mean, it depends because it's very subjective, you know, because it's one of them things where I think obviously Lumi's probably already answered it. But for me personally, if we're looking at just the number one player right now performing, I think you can't look no further than Moises Caicedo. You know, I think Moises Caicedo for me is the standout player. You know, and I think the best way you can kind of look at it is that what player in the Premier League gets into a World 11? And I think Caicedo for me is possibly the standout one that gets into a Premier League, that gets into a World 11 midfield right now. You know, I think you got, if you're looking at Erling Haaland, for instance, you know, Haaland could be in the World 11 right now, but then you got Harry Kane. So it's not a shoo-in for me. And again, this just shows you, yeah. This just shows you how much the Premier League has dropped off, because if we're looking at players to get into the World 11, I can only really think of one player. I mean, if you guys can think of any other players, let me know. But I think Caicedo is probably the only outstanding player that gets into a World 11 in the midfield. I mean, if you're playing a midfield 3, I'd have him in there with Pedri or Vitinha. Midfield 2 with Pedri or with Vitinha. So again, I think Caicedo has to be the best player in the league right now. You know, if we're looking at Van Dijk, I mean, Van Dijk for so many years has been one of the best. At the moment, his team are getting beat, you know, and I think he'll have an argument to say he should be in there. But I think Caicedo right now for me is he's the outstanding one. 100% outstanding one. Guys, come on, make sure you're smashing that like button and make sure you're subbing to the channel. And guys, make sure as well you get your membership badges, guys. There's some posts in there that you guys will be, you know, it'll be very good to have a look at. Obviously, some things from my past as well. And again, I'll be doing some Q&As. So once we get some members in there, be doing some Q&As sometime as well. A stream for Q&As. So yeah, make sure you guys get your membership badges and support the channel, guys. Big up. Caicedo is the best player right now, but the way he's playing, he'll get injuries. Reminds me of SEN, top player until the injuries. Who knows? Who knows? So, guys, the poll's saying, does Kobbie Mainoo leave Man United? 50-50 at the moment. I would say more no. You know, 53-47 now. I'd say more no for me. Big up to Sombra, says, I love you, Gav. Madness. From Argentina. Big up. Big up to Sombra. Buenos Aires. Big up to K Football. So, yeah, listen, guys. I think in terms of the team selection, you know, Ruben Amorim, I think there's problems ahead. Massive problems if he does stay in charge. I think if you're looking at the fact that the team he played yesterday, again, I was surprised that Lemens started in goal. You know, I thought he would have gone with in there, but again, Lemens coming in. You know, I think Lemens wasn't outstanding, but I think in terms of what he had to do, you know, he made a couple of very good saves. There was one instance where he, you know, where he kind of almost gave away a penalty. I think it was harsh to. I'm not sure if the referee did book Bertrand Traoré, but that looked like a foul to me. But I think all in all, you know, clean sheet on your home debut is good going, and I think in terms of him keeping his place against Liverpool, you'd have to say he does, you know. But again, it's going to be a different proposition at Anfield for Lemens. The back three, you know, Lenny Yoro did start, which I did predict as well. Matthias de Ligt and Luke Shaw. And I think, again, when you got de Ligt and you got Lenny Yoro at the back there, you know, you're going to be a better team. You know, they're two of the best defenders in the league, and they're two of Man United's best defenders. So Ruben Amorim just needs to just fix up and just keep playing them two for however long he's in charge. Luke Shaw again wasn't great, but Luke Shaw is going to get game time, you know, because again, Luke Shaw is he's on a lot of money, you know what I mean? So he's going to get game time. I would like to see Aiden Heaven come in. But again, it's one of them things where yeah, Luke Shaw's going to play, unfortunately. And then you look at the two wing backs. I mean, Ahmad coming back into the lineup. I was surprised, you know, but Dorgu was the fall guy. But this manager just loves Dallo, so we knew Dallo was going to play. But for me personally, I think, yeah, again, you guys know my thoughts on Ahmad. Ahmad playing wing back, you know, I can't stand seeing it happen because the guy's got so much ability, and his qualities need to be high up the pitch. And as I said, Ahmad played very well yesterday against his former team. And again, for those of you that don't know, you know, Ahmad is very highly rated by Sunderland. You know, you had some fans saying he's their best ever player that they've ever seen. So that's how good Ahmad is. You know, they were calling him the Ivorian Messi for a reason in Atalanta. So so as I said, man, he's a top player, Ahmad, and the fact that we've got to keep seeing him play wing back is a killer. So I just hope that, you know, again, we're only going to see a change of formation if it's a change of manager. So let's hope that is something that we can look forward to, because I can't stand seeing Ahmad playing wing back any longer. But he had a very good game yesterday. You know, even his ex-manager Tony Mowbray at Sunderland, you know, he knows how good Ahmad is, and he was saying that, you know, he can't understand why Ahmad's playing wing back either, because Ahmad's got so much ability with the ball at his feet. He needs to be doing damage high up the pitch. And again, those of you that do love your football will know this. So, as I said, when we get a different manager, we're going to see hopefully a better Ahmad, well, a more efficient and a better Amad Diallo, because there's only so long Ahmad can keep doing this position for, in my opinion. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I mean, Dallo at left back again. I knew Dallo left wing back. I knew Dallo would play. Dorgu was obviously on the bench. The midfield two of Bruno and Casemiro. I think when you're playing the likes of Sunderland, you know, you get away with those two as a combination in there, you know. But let's face it, any combination you want to play in there is going to be concerning, because let's face it, man, whether you want to play Ugarte in there, who's poor, you know, as I said, Kobbie, I want to see Kobbie play, but Kobbie's not the best. Kobbie won't, you won't get the best out of Kobbie in this system, which is why I want to see a change of manager and a change of formation. And then you got, so yeah, Bruno and Casemiro, and then the front three of, well, the two 10s, Mbeumo and Mount, and then Sesko through the middle. Now, the problem that is now, yeah, and this is what I'm trying to say to you about this manager. This manager does not like players, football players. He likes runners. It's very obvious, you know, because all the ballers are on the bench, yeah, or struggle to get game time. To think that Joshua Zirkzee, yeah, doesn't even get a minute yesterday, you know, I don't think Xerxes' days are numbered at the club. But what I will tell you is, if I'm Joshua Xerxes, I'm speaking to Ineos to see what his career is, because it's quite obvious that this manager doesn't rate Xerxes. So if you're Xerxes, you know, you're going to have to speak to Ineos and see what the hell's going on, because Xerxes is not going to start against Liverpool either. So what is Xerxes' future? You know, you've got one of the best players at the club, best footballers at the club, not even getting game time, you know. And again, Sesko has been good since he's come to the club. There's no denying that, yeah. And again, he's got 2 goals in his last 2 games. You know, his goal yesterday was a very good finish. You know, good instinctive finish. But what does the future hold for Joshua Xerxes? Because I'm still gonna say I want to see Xerxes as the striker over Sesko, because I think Xerxes would get a lot from Cunha and Mbeumo and from Ahmad. You know, but I've been happy with Sesko since he's come in. But if you can have him and Xerxes interchanging, I'm fine. But when this manager is not even playing Xerxes, not even 1 minute, what is Xerxes' future at Manchester United? You know, what is Kobbie's future? You know, I think as well, we have to question Matthias Cunha now. Because to think that Matthias Cunha was the big money signing along with Mbeumo, and now you've got Cunha on the bench for Mason Mount, that just tells you all you need to know about this manager. This manager rates Mason Mount highly, and I'll be honest with you, against Liverpool, if he's still in charge, I don't expect Cunha to start. Because I think because Sesko's going to start because he's got 2 and 2. Mbeumo, he's going to play. And then you're thinking, well, Mount scored. You know, Mount runs around and you're going to need that at Anfield. I can see Mount starting. So again, you're going to have a stronger bench than the starting lineup, in my opinion. Because Xerxes, Kobbie Mainoo and Cunha could all be on the bench. And again, under a new manager, those are 3 players that have to be starting. This is the big problem, guys, with team selection and this manager. He does not rate footballers, and those 3 there are footballers. You know, do I think Ahmad's going to start against Liverpool? I'm not confident Ahmad starts, you know, another footballer, because I can see him playing Dalot and Dorgu as a 2 wing-backs. So this is the problem with this manager. He doesn't like the footballers, and he just continues to play runners. And, you know, why are we surprised that the team turns in performances that they have been turning? And again, it's one of them things as well now that, you know, I'm hearing people say that was United's best performance of the season. And this is how low the standards are, because we're now looking at newly promoted Sunderland, you know, who were poor, by the way. We're now looking at them as Man United as the benchmark. Man United put in a good performance against Sunderland. You know, I didn't see much difference. I just saw a team, you know, that just did what they had to do in the first half, and then second half was more the same. But that game could have gone 2 different ways, because there was 2 penalty shouts that went into United's favour, you know. And let's face it as well, 2 of the goals, you know, you're not really seeing United create clear-cut opportunities again. You know, if you look at Sesko's goal, you know, that come from a long throw from Dalot, and then obviously one of the Sunderland players actually headed it on, and then good instinctive finish from Sesko. The first goal, Mason Mount, good ball into the box by Mbeumo. And to be honest with you, it was very good improvisation from Mason Mount, and then obviously a neat finish. But again, this shouldn't be the benchmark, because there's tough 4 games coming up, and whether Amorim's in charge or not, you know, it's not going to be all United's own way. So as I said, let's see what happens. Does Kobbie Mainoo leave Man United? 52% saying yes, 48% saying no. Guys, if you think Kobbie's going to leave United, tell me why in the chat, because I'll be very interested to see why you think he's going to leave. Because I'll say, I've had my say on it already. I don't think he goes anywhere. It's going to come down, as I said, to Kobbie or Amorim. You know, if you're thinking it's not going to come down to that, then I suggest that you guys think again, because it's very obvious that Ineos are going to have to choose between him and Amorim. It's obvious. Imagine Walton and Mainoo in the middle. Listen, Adam Walton's a very good player, man. I think for so many reasons, I think for me, if you can get both of them, I'll be happy with. But I think Baleba needs to be the signing. You know, I like Walton a lot. I like Walton as a ball player. But I think what Baleba would offer in that midfield in terms of his energy, in terms of his press resistance as well, I think he's someone that United do need to get, because, as I said, I think if you play a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, I think he'd be a must signing for me personally. You know, Adam Walton I'm a massive fan of as well. Again, if Man United are the Man United that I know them to be, you go and get both of them. You know, but I'm still going to say Baleba. You know, I want Camavinga, but again, Camavinga's a unrealistic signing. But Baleba needs to be made the #1 central midfield target. And I've been saying this for time, you know. So, yeah, that's what I believe, you know. But, again, where do Man United end up? Where do Man United end up with this manager? Because Ineos, for me, need to pull the plug, man. They have to. They have to pull the plug. So, Gav, why is Joshua Zirkzee not getting many starts? Again, this is a fail on the manager because, you know, I mentioned it earlier. When you've got someone like Joshua Zirkzee, yeah, who is, if we're looking at the top three footballers at the club, Joshua Zirkzee is in that three as a footballer. You know, the fact that this manager is treating Zirkzee the way he's treating him, and Zirkzee can't even get game time, it just shows you that this manager just has no respect for footballers. You know, and it's what I'm trying to say to you. Zirkzee, for me, needs to be speaking to Ineos. If I'm Zirkzee, if I'm Kobbie Mainoo, I'm going above Ruben Amorim and going to Ineos, to Jason Wilcox, you know, and find out what the future is. Because, again, when it comes to Liverpool, these two guys will be on the bench. They're not going to get game time. You know, it's one game a week now. So what is the point of these two really being at the club? And I can see both players trying to force a loan move in January if this manager somehow stays here, because I just don't get it. Yeah, that I just don't get it that these two players are not getting the game time that I believe they should be getting. You know, it's frustrating. You know, because I'm looking at these two guys as two players that can go and easily play for other top teams in the world, you know, and hold their own. You know, they're being stifled in this system and under this manager, because this manager just doesn't want to give them any game time, you know, and it's frustrating to watch personally. But yeah, why is he not starting? Because he doesn't really see Zirkzee as a number 9 that he can work with, which I think is nonsense. Because, as I said before, you know, if you have a 4-2-3-1, you know, or you've got a 4-3-3, and you've got the wide forwards in in Cunha and Mbeumo, Joshua Zirkzee is a perfect 4 for both of them, because he can link the play, you know, he can create as well. And the fact that we can't even see Zirkzee on the pitch, you know, even United being 2-0 up, he gets not 1 minute. You know, if I'm Zirkzee, man, I'm going above Amorim and find out what his future is. Because if let's say, for instance, here, that they're going to keep this manager, yeah, why is Zirkzee and Mainoo going to stay? But I have to believe that this manager is not going to remain any longer, because there's no way that I'll be satisfied seeing two talents like Zirkzee and Mainoo leave the club before this manager. So, yeah, it's crazy. Big up to Lumi for the super sticker. Big up. That's for the Pepsi cherry. Yeah, big up, Lumi. Big up. Listen, guys, if you haven't tried it, man, red wine and Pepsi cherry. You know, I've been saying this drink for a little while. You know, give it a try, guys. It will change your life. I promise you. So I sat behind Mainoo's mum last season versus Villa last game in the Ambassadors Lounge. Someone was knocking him, and she turned around and give it some to them. Really nice woman. Listen, well, I think any mum would do that. You know, if your son's being criticised, man, like, that's a given. You know what I mean? You're not gonna just sit there and just have that. You know, that goes for anyone, man. But listen, yeah, I don't believe Kobbie Mainoo's leaving. Kobbie Mainoo's definitely not leaving Man United. Like, I'm pretty confident of that. And this is what I'm trying to say to you. It's going to come down to Kobbie or Amorim. You know, so Man United, for me, are not going to sanction Kobbie Mainoo's exit, in my opinion. Because all you got to look at, yeah, is the fact that there ain't no academy players in that first team right now. And Kobbie at the moment is probably like the figurehead of academy players into the first team. You know, you look at the first team now, there's no players in that 11 that are from the academy or even in the squad, really. So Kobbie's the only one. So I just believe that it's going to be a matter of time before Ineos have to act, and they have to act on his manager very soon. You know, so, but me personally, I think it's good. I think it's good news that Kobbie does want to leave, because it shows that Kobbie's not happy with his position at the moment. He wants to get more game time. And he's forcing Ineos's hand to make a decision. And again, he knows the World Cup is around the corner. And the longer he stays on the bench for this manager, the less likely he's going to the World Cup. So I definitely think January, even before that, I definitely do believe we're going to see some movement on that. Because, as I said, I think if this manager somehow survives January, I think Kobbie's definitely gone. You know, but as I said, I don't think that Kobbie goes. I think the manager gets sacked before that. And as I said, this international break, it needs to happen. You know, it's the perfect time. You know, going into a game against Liverpool, and let's face it as well. Yeah, away to Anfield is never going to be easy. But Liverpool are, you know, they've lost their last 3 games. Their next game is Man United, their arch rivals. You know, how refreshing would it be to bring in a new manager with new ideas, a new system, and you go into that Liverpool game knowing that they're a bit fragile at the moment, and you go into that game, you know, optimistic that you can try and get a win. But I'm going to tell you guys right now, if this man just somehow remains in charge, you know, again, it could be his first time winning back-to-back games, but I just think personally, it's not going to happen. I don't see Liverpool, as bad as they've been in the last 3 games, I don't see them losing 3 league games in a row, especially at Anfield. As we know, at Anfield, with their crowd behind them, you know, they definitely they definitely do put on the show in front of their home crowd. So again, there's every reason for me to suggest that, you know, a new manager going to Anfield, you know, with fresh ideas, regardless of the result against Sunderland, is what needs to happen. So again, it's up to Ineos, man. It's over to Ineos, because the noises we've been hearing about new managers, I just hope it comes to fruition very soon. So does Kobbie leave Man United? 50-50, guys. 34 votes. Make sure you get your votes in and let me know what you think. Big up to Barbara Joseph. Big up to Daniela as well for the super chats. So Gav, what have you made of Mo Salah this season? Do you know what? Good question. Good question. You know what it is with Mo Salah, yeah? Mo Salah hasn't been good for ages. Like, I don't think Mo Salah was even good last season, you know, but I think a lot of people look at his numbers, you know, and they think, you know, let's ignore his performances, and you know, let's just overhype Mo Salah. That's the truth. And I think the thing for me with Mo Salah, yeah, is that you can clearly see Mo Salah has regressed. But I thought he regressed last season. It's just that he had good numbers. But I said at the start of this summer, you know, Liverpool need to play a 3 at the back. And that was more to help Mo Salah, because it's quite obvious Mo Salah has lost his legs, you know. And when Mo Salah gets roughed up, he's not really a physical player. I mean, in terms of his strength, he's got very good strength, Mo Salah. You know, he can hold players off, etc. But in terms of the rough and tumble of the game, you know, players getting stuck into him, he ain't that kind of player. So I think as soon as someone roughs him up, you know, he gets off his game. And you can see yesterday, that's what Cucurella was doing. You know, Cucurella was getting into him, you know, and I think a lot of left-backs now will be looking at that thinking, if you can just unsettle Mo Salah and just rough him up, you know, that will go a long way to nullifying a threat that Liverpool have. Now, what I would say about Salah this season, yeah, is that threat at the back would have allowed him to be close to goal. You know, if you think of the players that they have, you know, especially in wing-back, you know, Jeremy Frimpong is actually a wing-back. Him and Kirkes can play that position, which would mean that you've got 2 10s playing more in-field. Now, although Salah's not a number 10, I think Salah close to goal, playing more in-field to preserve his his pace. I think that would have been a better bet that Arne Slot should have done. Because I think you would have got a more efficient Mo Salah where he hasn't got to rely using, you know, his pace out wide. That can be Jeremy Frimpong. And then Mo Salah can be close to goal you know, and trying to get shots off. But again, they're playing that four at the back, and Salah hasn't been great at all. I think every game, I think the warning signs were against Bournemouth, the first game of the season. Although he scored the goal at the end, he was poor in that game. So, and I think it's continued. And I think yesterday's game as well, you can clearly tell that the pressure and the fact that he's not playing well is getting to him. Because the amount of times he runs through and just doesn't pass the ball, tries to go for the shot. And again, people will say, well, look at his numbers over the last few years. I hear all that. But the facts are, you know, Mo Salah is very one-dimensional in terms of, you know, he very rarely wants to create. He just wants to just try and get a goal to mask over performances. And again, that was another game yesterday where he did that. So, yeah, that's what I would say, man. He hasn't been great at all. So, let's see what happens. Turrell says Karabag versus Celtic 3-1. 3-1 Karabag, yeah? What was that? Was that in Europa? Is that in Europa? Let's see the votings, guys. So 54% say yes, 46% say no, 37 votes so far. So 54% of you guys think Kobbie Mainoo is going to leave Manchester United. I'm not too sure, man. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. So Kennedy says, where does the future lie with Man United if Baleba joins next season? For me, if Baleba does join, again, Baleba's not going to be the missing piece. He's not. You know, I think with Baleba, he definitely does strengthen that midfield. But again, a lot of it comes down to the formation, guys. It's because even if Baleba does come in and Amorim does somehow remain, this three at the back system just isn't going to get the best out of certain players, you know. When Man United play up against better teams, you know, this is when you're going to see the unraveling, really. So, Baleba definitely improves his midfield, definitely. But I just want to see a different formation, which means a different manager. So that's where I'm gonna see it. Oh, what? Walter Marder scored again, yeah? He scored again. What's the score with Newcastle and Nottingham Forest? Because I think if Nottingham Forest lose this game, I don't want to say Postecoglou will get sacked, but I think the pressure is really going to be on. Because I still think he won't get sacked after this game. They're winning 2-0. Okay. Yeah, crazy. Hello, my brother. Do you think Arsenal this season are a different team compared to last season? Do I think they're a different team? I don't. That's the honest truth. I think, listen, I'm guessing you're an Arsenal fan anyway, yeah? I think Arsenal top of the league by a point, fair enough. You know, let's give credit where credit's due. You know, but there is still a long way to go in this season. You know, I think definitely there's going to be a lot of twists and turns in this Premier League season. And I think defensively, as we know, they're very solid. But again, it's not hard to be solid as a defence when your team is set up to be defensive. That's what Arsenal do. You know, their main thing is their defence. And then they try and nick a goal. You know, I think the warning signs for me is the bigger teams they've played. Away to Liverpool, they got beat. And they were poor in that game as well. At home to Man City, City should have beaten them. But I think Pep's changes and the fact that there was a confusion for the Martinelli goal. The Newcastle game, that could have gone either way. You know, Gabriel probably should have been sent off as well before he got the winner. So again, I'm looking at those three games in particular. Those three big games against three teams that they're competing for the league title with. And they've got one win, one loss, one draw. And those games there could have all easily been 3 losses. So again, I don't think Arsenal are different to last season. I just think that, you know, look, I think the games that they've won, I think they're expected to win. The games that they've lost, um, yeah, I think well they've lost one game against Liverpool, you know. But as I said, there's a long way to go. But I think one thing for certain is that their defense is solid, but there's no surprise there really. I think going forwards, you know, can Saka stay fit? How's he gonna fit in Eze and Odegaard into the same team? You know, because there's no doubt in my mind that Eze should be playing as a number 10, but Odegaard's the captain. So is he gonna play two tens and then play Declan Rice deeper? You know, Gyökeres, I don't rate Gyökeres, you know. Against the best, against the better teams, he doesn't do anything. So again, these are the questions that Arsenal have to, that Arsenal have to answer, and Mikel Arteta. But at this moment in time, 7 games in, top of the league, you know, but there's a long way to go. Hell of a long way to go. Gav, do you think Kobbie is good enough to start for Man United? 100%, I do. This system isn't the best system, though, for him, in my opinion. You know, and as I said, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, you're going to get a more confident and a better Kobbie for me. But he's definitely good enough to start for Man United. But as we already know, this manager doesn't rate him. You know, this is the same manager that told us he's competing with Bruno Fernandes for a place in the team. So that just tells you that he's not going to play him, because Bruno plays every minute of every game, more or less. So, as I said, man, he is definitely good enough to start in this team. But he's not going to start in this team as long as this manager's here. So, as I said, it's going to come down to either Kobbie or Amorim, whoever keeps their place at Man United. And I know where I'm going. So, do you really think City should have beaten us? I do. City should have beaten Arsenal. I think what I would say is that Pep played into Arteta's hands, because Arteta messed up in the first instance by not playing Eze from the start, and it had to bring Eze on anyway. But I think City kind of managed the game well. Again, let's not forget that Haaland had that chance to score the second one as well, which would have killed the game off. But I think when Pep took Haaland off, and he took off, another player took off, but he went a bit more defensive to try and nullify Arsenal's attack. The problem is, you know, if you're someone that knows your football, or any manager, when you take off attackers, it lets the other team know, the opposition know, that you're trying to go defensive. So then what happens? You naturally sit back, and then the opposition naturally, you know, will start attacking you. And if you look at Arteta's changes as well, he brought Martinelli on. You know, Gyökeres was still on. Eze was on. Odegaard come on. I think Trossard might have still been on as well, I believe. So again, he clearly, Marino was on. So again, he clearly wanted to go. No, sorry, I think Marino come off. Sorry, I think Marino come off. But he clearly wanted to go more attacking, and the fact that Pep went more defensive, you know, this is why Arsenal ended up forcing the goal, because naturally, you know, it's a mindset. If the more attackers you have on the pitch, naturally you're going to go forward, and the more defenders you have on the pitch, naturally you're going to be more defensive. And Eddie Howe done the same thing against Arsenal for Newcastle at home. You know, Livramento getting injured was luck, really, not on his side. But when he took off Walter Marder, who was their outlet in terms of the long ball, and then Joe Linton was a massive one, because Joe Linton was roughing up the Arsenal midfield. And then when him and Walter Marder come off, again, it invited pressure. So, yeah, it's a massive problem for those two managers for doing that. But again, Arsenal capitalised, and that's all you can say, really. But is what it is. Is what it is. So once Havertz is back, you know that Gyökeres is going to struggle for game time. Arteta is in love with Havertz. I agree. I agree. I think anyone knows that Arteta rates Havertz highly. And if we're thinking that, you know, how you're going to fit in Odegaard and fit in Eze as a 2 number 10s, you know, Havertz is actually a number 10 that plays obviously as a 9 now. You know, when Havertz is fit, I'll be very surprised if Havertz is on the bench because, as I said, man, it's he's one of Arteta's favourites. I think the fact that Havertz is out injured at the moment is kind of luck really for Arteta not having to think about dropping Gyökeres, etc. But I do think Havertz comes straight back into the team once he's fit. I do think that. Guys, 42 votes, 55% say yes, 45% say no. Does Kobbie leave Man United? Guys, make sure your votes are coming in. Let's see where everyone's at with the Kobbie Mainoo situation. Again, let me know if you think Kobbie leaves before the manager as well, because I think it's going to come down to that. Is it going to be Amorim or is it going to be Kobbie Mainoo who actually leaves? That's the interesting thing. Guys, what's the score on the games today? Man City playing Brentford as well. What's the score on that game? Make sure we're smashing that like button and make sure we're subbing to the channel. And guys, make sure you share the channel as well. Make sure you share this channel, share the content. Big up yourselves. So, love your balanced view on stuff, but I truly believe Arsenal will win the Premier League this season. Listen, I mean, anyone that wins the league, you know, is going to deserve it at the end of the day, you know. But for me, we've been there before with Arsenal. You know, the fact that Arteta has been there, what, is his 7th season now? And all he's got to show for it is an FA Cup, which wasn't with his team. I mean, why would we be confident now to say that Arsenal win the league? As I said, I'm going to stick with Grealish late winner, yeah? Top player, man. My guy, Jack Grealish, man. What a player. He got a late winner, yeah, against Palace. I'm not surprised. Not surprised, man. One of the best players in the league, easily. You know, easily. But, yeah, listen. What I would say is we've been there before with Arsenal. And, yeah, as I said, I think I'm still going to tip Man City to win the league. I tipped them at the start, you know. I just think that there's something with Pep this season. You know, he's back with his wife now, as we know. So I think he's going to be on absolute smoke. I know they haven't started off that great this season. But again, the Premier League's a marathon, not a sprint. So I do believe City are going to start putting teams away and start putting points on the board. So this league is open as well. So I think this league is open for positions that other teams can just think that they can definitely get into. So yeah, it's one of them things. But I'm gonna say Man City to win the league. You know, definitely. I think if they win today against Brentford, I believe they're 3 points from the top, which is nothing. And again, they've still got to play Arsenal at home. They've still got to play Liverpool, you know. So teams that we're thinking are going to be competing for that league title, which I think Chelsea as well showed yesterday, yeah. I mean, they weren't great, Chelsea, in my opinion. I think they were better than Liverpool. They weren't great. But I think Chelsea, I don't believe they'll be title contenders. You know, I reckon, I said at the start of the season, 3rd for me, yeah. But I think them beating Liverpool at home yesterday, who knows, man? If they start putting a couple of results together, who knows, man? They can find themselves in the top 3 as well. So, again, it's a very open Premier League for me. But I think City can put off, if City start putting some wins together, you know, you're very good, you're going to find them, you know, shoot on that table very quick. So I think if they win today, I think the highest they can go is probably, what, 5th or 6th? But again, there's a long way to go, man. And international break, you know, they'll be able to recharge the batteries in a sense. And then, yeah. I mean, this international break for me is annoying, to be fair, as well. But, yeah, it's one of them things, isn't it, really? So... Right, guys, we're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. So make sure you're smashing that like button and make sure you are subbing to the channel. Make sure you're voting, guys, as well. So 55% say yes. Sorry, 53% say yes and 47% say no. So the majority of you think Kobbie is definitely going to be leaving United. Listen, it's one to watch, man. That's what I will say. It's definitely one to watch. Yeah, definitely one to watch. Guys, anyone know what the league table's saying now, actually, at the moment? I think United are, what, 8th? I think United are 8th place at the moment. But I think that might be dependent on some results today. I believe Everton might actually be headed, might have, if Everton got that win, I think Everton might have overtaken. So, yeah, it could be that. So Palace are 5th, Everton going to 7th. Okay. Big up, George. So yeah, Palace 5th, Everton 7th. I think City must be 6th now then, yeah? Guys, we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So yeah, keep your questions and comments coming in before we wrap up. So Gav, who do you think will win the 2026 World Cup? Great question. I'm gonna say, yeah, for me, and I don't think it'll be any of a surprise. I don't know if the South American teams are gonna be up there. I'm just not too sure. You know, I think, you know, whenever we talk about World Cup, you think of Brazil, you think of Argentina, you know, Messi, Neymar, even Ronaldo as well. Surely their last World Cups. All 3 players not even playing in Europe no more. And I think those 3 players throughout the years have always been the key players for their national teams. I look at Brazil, and I think Brazil, in terms of their attacking talent, you know, they've got so much players to choose from in attack. You think of Neymar, is he going to get called up, which he should do? You think of Rafinha, João Pedro, Paqueta, Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, Esteval, Anthony, you can put in there as well. Who else is there? Even Richarlison, you can mention as well. They've got so many attackers to choose from, and I'm not sure who they're actually gonna pick. There's probably a few others I've actually forgotten about as well. Argentina again, you know, Mastantuono, obviously of Real Madrid. Is he gonna be in there? You know, obviously Messi, these last one. Lautaro Martinez, you know, Dybala, is he going to be there? Julian Alvarez, you know. They've got a lot of talents, these nations. I just don't know if they're going to have enough to go all the way. I'm not too sure. I think Europeans, Spain, France, you know, again, I think Spain have to be considered up there. You know, the current European Championship holders. France, I never rule out France. But again, I don't trust France under Didier Deschamps, because Deschamps is very negative as a manager. But I think definitely, I think Spain, France, Argentina, Brazil, I think those countries there have to be talked about. You know, I think those 4, the likely winner we'd think it come from them four. I think outsiders, you got Portugal, England. I don't think Germany would do much. I think Germany's more of a rebuilding thing for them. Who else? I don't think England. England are not winning any World Cup. They're not. So I think yeah, the outsiders will be England, Portugal, Holland. I think they're more of an outsider as well. But yeah, I think the favourites have to be the favourites for me definitely have to be the likes of the South Americans in Brazil, Argentina, Spain, France. Who knows, man? An African team could be a threat in there as well. You never know, man. You never know. You never know. So Eze's England's best player. I think he's definitely one of them. England's best player for me. You know, I'm looking at Grealish. I'm looking at Cole Palmer. Eze, I reckon. I'd love to see Jadon Sancho back in that squad as well. You know, obviously Harry Kane's there. You know what I mean? But yeah, listen, I think I like Morgan Rogers as well. They got some very good players, England. But again, I don't trust Thomas Tuchel to play the right team for one, and I don't trust him to leave out certain players when he needs to. So yeah, man, it's one of them things. It's one of them things. But yeah, definitely, if I'm being honest, do I see England winning the World Cup? I don't. I think that's just being brutally honest. You know, do I see them getting past the group stages? I think that should always be the you know, that should always be the target to get out of the group, which we expect. I mean, who's in England's group anyway? Because they always get a favourable draw in the group anyway, so you expect them to get out of that. So yeah, listen, I think with England, when they meet certain teams later on in the competition, one of the favourites, this is where they come unstuck for me. So I think in the Euros they managed to avoid that, which they have done for a little while now. But if they meet a France, a Spain, you know, an Argentina, a Brazil, any of them kind of nations, I think this is when you're going to see what England are about, because for too many years they've had favourable draws in the Euros and in the World Cup. So yeah, let's see, man. Let's see. Big up to Champagne says, I'm Amorim in. Well, listen, if you're Amorim in, man, then listen, you need help. That's what I would say, because any fan that's Amorim in, you know, you need to be seriously asking yourself questions, man, because Man United manager in the Premier League only has 10 wins since he's been there, you know, and just look at the majority of the wins who they've come against. So listen, everyone's free to their opinion, but this whole Amorim in is crazy, man. So Blue Moon says Jude Bellingham or Phil Foden for England's best player. No way. The fact that people think Jude Bellingham is England's best player just tells you all you need to know. Why, you know what I mean? Why England are in the mud? Because if you think Bellingham's England's best player, you know what I mean? You're only saying that because of PR, not because you actually believe that. Because there's no way Jude Bellingham's better than Cole Palmer. He's not better than Harry Kane. He's not better than Eze. All these players are better footballers. You know, the fact that Jude Bellingham's being shoehorned into the England team is the problem. And the fact that Tuchel left him out, that's music to my ears, because he shouldn't be playing in the 10 as it is anyway. And the fact that people think he's England's best player, yeah, just shows you, man, innit? It's crazy. You know, I like Foden as well, but Foden has got a tough task to get himself into the lineup as well. So who knows, man? Who knows? But yeah, to say that Bellingham is the best player is madness. Absolute madness, you know. But again, this is people for you, don't it? People just see the game in a certain way, you know. The fact that Bellingham's even found himself at Real Madrid, and And big up Blue Moon. Exactly, man. Football is about opinions, you know. But again, it's about realism as well, you know. I'll never suppress anyone's opinion because you're entitled to that. But yeah, I had my chance to rebuttal that, man, because I just don't agree with Bellingham being England's best player. It's crazy, man. The fact that he's found his way at Real Madrid is only due to PR, because the Real Madrid players that I've seen throughout the years, you know, there's no way Bellingham should be there, you know. There's no way. Guys, come on, make sure we're smashing that like button. 16 likes. And there's 13 of you in there at the moment. Make sure we're smashing the like button if you're enjoying the content. And as always, make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in there as well. We're going to wrap up in about a couple of minutes, guys. So get your questions in and get your comments in as well. I'm only going to read out questions that are that I think stand out. So a couple of more minutes and then we're going to wrap up. So 53% say yes, 47% say no. Guys, make sure you're voting on the poll. Does Kobbie Mainoo leave Man United? At the moment, it's in favour of him going, which is mad, to be fair. But guys, anyone know the scores at the moment between the games? Newcastle still winning 2-0. So who do you think will win the rematch between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr.? Eubank Jr. wins that again. Yeah, he'll win that again, man. 100%. He'll win that again. I think Conor Benn done well, you know, for the first fight. Basically showed a lot of heart. But I think the fact that Eubank won that, and let's admit, you know, Eubank had a way lot to lose than Conor Benn did for that fight. But I think the fact that he won that fight, and then, you know, the fight's gonna be happening again. I can't remember what weight he's doing it again. I think it's gonna be more Eubank's favour for that fight. Yeah, I think Eubank Jr. wins that again, man. 100%. I think he wins that again. But guys, big up yourselves anyway, and wrap it up anyway. Listen, make sure you guys are smashing the like button. Make sure you guys are subbing to the channel if you're new in here as well. And as I said, guys, once you become a member, you know, you'll be able to check out the members only section as well. There's some good stuff in the members section only. Again, some things that I actually forgot about, you know, which I've obviously posted in there. So again, if you guys want to view that, then make sure you guys become a member. And as I say, you'll be able to view the posts. And as always, much appreciated you guys coming through, interacting with the channel. And tomorrow, I should be back tomorrow. Not sure what time. I might try and get Jonas back on again, Liverpool fan. Obviously, he's got to answer for his crimes. Liverpool in trouble at the moment. So, yeah, I'll try and see if I can get him back on as well. But, yeah, listen. Yeah, make sure you guys are subbing to the channel, guys. And you make sure you guys have got your notifications on as well. And as I said, I should be back tomorrow. Not sure what time, but keep an eye on the schedule. And, guys, make sure you check out all the other content. And before we wrap up, 50 votes. You know, does Kobbie Mainoo leave Man United? 54% of you say yes. 46% of you say no. So, tight there. But as I said, man, yeah, I believe Kobbie stays. You know, and as I said, it's going to come down to Kobbie or to Ruben Amorim. And again, team selection going forwards, if this manager does remain, you know, is going to be interesting because that Liverpool game, if he somehow survives this international break, that Liverpool game, don't be surprised if Cunha, Xerxes, Mainoo are all on the bench. 3 of our better players. So this is what this manager's doing. So it is what it is, man. But guys, big up yourselves each and every time. Smash the like button, sub to the channel. I'm going to catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.